this episode, we pop into my favorite city in England for a chat with Joe Ince. Joe's at the helm of Marble Brewery. Since 1997, they have been selling their own progressive pints to discerning Mancunians, while churning out a veritable who's who of British craft brewing. He takes me from Marble's origins in the back of their Victorian pub to the construction of a new brewery and what it's like to grow up in a beer family. Welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic. Hi, I'm Kevin Brooks, and this is No Pants During the Pandemic. Today I'm speaking with Joe Ince, head of production at Marble Brewing in Manchester, England. Hey Joe, how you doing today?
I'm good. We're keeping it together. We're super fortunate during all of this. Home life super stable. We're all super safe. Brewery's doing better than I anticipated it would do, which is great but tiring.
First things first, in the United States there is a Marble Brewery. I think you guys are older than them. So you're Marble from the UK. Why don't you tell me, who you are and, what you do?
My name's Joe. I'm the head of production or head brewer at Marble Beers. It's about as simple as it gets.
You're located in Manchester. What's Manchester like?
It's the unofficial second city of England. It's got a really, not just for beer, but in general, it has a super strong student scene. So it's a little bit underground. There's a little bit of grime, but in a really good way. There's definitely a ton of character. There's definitely an attitude of like, we're Northern, this is us. Manchester has an incredible music scene, art scene. The culture here is phenomenal, but everyday culture is really important in Manchester. Friends, social, being out, that kind of thing is what the city thrives on. Being creative is something the city thrives on.
I guess let's talk about family. So beer seems to kind of run in your family, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have a brother that is a founder, head brewer of a brewery. I have a mother who's a director of a brewing company. We find our way through it.
And so your mom is the director of this little place called Marble in Manchester. With Marble, it all starts with the pub, the Marble Arch. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the Marble Arch and your mom?
The way she tells the story is she walked into a pub in 91, 92 and just never left. And the only way you can never leave a pub is if you live there, and the only way you can live in a pub is if you own it. Through happenstance or circumstance, that's what she did. And then with her ex-partner, my brother's father, the pub was hitting some hard times around end of 96, start of 97. And there was basically a plan devised behind her back we need to do something to bring this beautiful, beautiful Victorian pub up to date into life to basically bring in customers, because it's just on the cusp of the city centre. It's not really attracting anyone. It's not really doing much. There's two things we can do. We can put a karaoke room in, knowing Jan can't sing for shit, or we can build a brewery. So, yeah, they built the brewery. The brewery started making beer, tiny, half hectolitre, 8, 9, 10 firkins on a batch. They had Brendan Dobbin brewing to begin with, very quickly replaced with the talented James Campbell, and it just strength to strength.
Marble was kind of like this breeding ground of like what I consider some of the best brewers in the English craft beer scene.
Yeah, the alumni through that brewery sort of speaks for itself.
Collins and James Campbell, Dom.
Yeah, I think like Rob, who went on to set up Blackjack, Stu, who's now at Camden, Matt Howgate, who is the head brewer at Vocation. Like, it's been a big school. One of the interesting thing is you don't hear about the brewers who've stayed. So we have Starbot, lead brewer, has been with the company for 10 years, and like I think started as a KP in one of the kitchens, and then very similar to myself, did a bit of cast washing to this, and is now like a fucking incredible brewer. One of the things I'm really aiming for us to do is we don't need to make the best IPA in the world, or we don't need to make the best anything in the world, but I want to know if someone spent 2 years or 3 years with us, they will automatically get a job at any other brewery because you come and work for us. Everyone knows you know your shit.
The brewery was in the back of the Marble Arch itself, right?
Yeah, so the Brewhouse was in what is essentially now deemed too small to be a dry store for a kitchen. Small mash tun, hand dug, no door, nothing like that. A little electric HLT, I think no CLT, or incredibly like no bigger than a stock pot for a CLT. Yeah, very primitive electric element, kettle, and then gravity fed downstairs to the cellar of the pub, like an old school tower brewery.
The beer scene in England in 96, 97, though, hell of a lot different than what it is now. What was it like then, I guess?
Well, all your artwork could be done on MS Paint, which there's a lot of our punk clips and stuff from back around that time were done on MS Paint. And you definitely had Jan's touch to them. Like, I don't know it straight from memory. It's sort of given memory because 97, I would have been 10, so a bit before mine. I was also living in the pub at that time, so, isn't this how every child grows up? So it wasn't really like something different or something to really pay attention to. It was just, this is my attic room, this is the front room, this is the pub room, this is the brewery room, this is a brewery cellar room.
The beer scene itself was still kind of back in the traditional. Well, can't even say cask, but I mean it was kind of in the camera was trying to figure out what the hell they were doing. Still,
The British beer scene at that time, apart from little pockets and small regional or small family brewers, wasn't very good. A lot of the general public had turned their back on like a really vibrant scene through the late 80s, early 90s to go for either, if they wanted bitter, was smooth flow, mass produced, or macro lager. Like, there was a huge push at that point for macro, and the worst thing that ever happened to British beer was trying to make it for everyone. So smooth flow just killed it for everyone. So yeah, there was a ton of shit, boring, brown, twiggy beer.
you said you grew up in a pub and basically grew up in a brewery too. When did you start working there?
So I didn't start working in the brewery till my like mid to late teens. I think I started getting a bit of pocket money when I was sort of 13, 14, cleaning. We had another bar in one of the suburbs. Me and actually two friends would go in, clean for 2-3 hours Saturday morning, 2-3 hours Sunday morning, get a bit of cash, and go and be teenage boys and spend it all on like weed and DVDs. Never really thought anything of it. It was pretty cool. We were in a bar. Sometimes like they'd give us a beer to take home or something. Did that for a lot. Got in trouble a little bit. Ended up working in one of the kitchens for punishment, which was really interesting actually, and really like gave me an interest that like people are really into what they eat and drink. Food isn't just what someone puts in front of you. Drinks aren't just what someone gives you to have with dinner. People take energy and effort and stuff, and people pay for really good food and really good booze. That was a really nice eye opener. And then like summer jobs and stuff, would go into the brewery, do like a bit of racking, conditioning, cleaning tanks, digging out mash tuns, that kind of stuff. Should have paid a lot more attention to and should have really like given a shit about in hindsight. But it was just like summer job, it's heavy labor. I'm just here to do this so I have some money in my pocket. As I like got through that summer, was like, actually this is pretty interesting. And the guys at the time who were doing that, so that was like Colin, Don, James, the various people around the pub, they were like interesting grown-ups. These were like not doggy parents or adults. These were like fun people, and that really gave me an interest. And they were being people who really cared about what they were doing, and then did various bits and pieces for Marble on and off. Everything from like temp work, like running bars in between managers, just anything that sort of company had to do, I'd step in and do as it was needed. Through high school, then through sixth form, as I was doing my degree, popped in and out of different stuff for Marble, now focusing much more on like just learn, be a sponge, absorb everything you can absorb. And then, yeah, towards the end of uni, realised that I'd probably want to get into brewing as a job.
You left Marble then.
I think I've left and probably been dismissed from Marble more than once. Like, it was really important to me having an Irish family and working in the alcohol industry. Like, have a plan B, just have something you can fall back on. So I went and did a degree in forensic science, totally anti-brewing, anti-parents. By the time I got to my final year at uni, I'd earned enough credit or had done enough work to basically, I didn't need to really do my exams in my final year and I'd still get an okay degree. So I went to a local brewery and was just like, I'll do whatever. You don't really need to pay me much if it covers my like travel to the brewery and home from the brewery. That's fine. I'll turn up on time. I'll work 5 days a week. I just need experience. And it was a brewery called Phoenix, who are very local cask brewery. When you look at them now, they're a super traditional English cask brewery, but at the time they were using like American Cascade hops and like doing like dry IPAs and stuff, which is like really hard to come across in the UK at that time, especially in Manchester. And my day was literally go in, wash 100 casks, fill them, dig a mash tun, dig the other mash tun, clean both the kettles out, set up the grist for tomorrow. You start work at 7, finish at 3 o'clock. You walk up there on a Friday, you get your wages in a brown paper envelope, like super, super old school, but really nice. And yeah, from there, I went and worked for a little brewery called Buxton.
A little brewery called Buxton.
There was no Omnipolo when I worked at Buxton. Like, we were a small brewery, like really, and I was super young in the industry, and like I just wanted to make good beer and impress. Like, I was arrogant, but in the way that I could eat a Kit Kat and work for 24 hours. I just wanted to lift heavy shit and get stuff done. Under JK and Jeff there, just learned a hell of a lot. And now I look back at it, also more so like how to be a person, how to interact, how to be a boss. A lot of stuff that I haven't had to call into action really till now. I learned there, which is really good.
So after Buxton, you went down to or up to Huddersfield, right?
Yeah, the only funny thing, I think my last week or my last 2 weeks in Buxton, I worked for a gent named Colin Strong, who was one of my mentors at Marble. So I worked for Colin when I was 16, 17, maybe 18 years old. And then at 22, 23 was like, here's this brewery I've been caretaking. I hope you like it. Bye. Yeah, that was really nice. Someone who I'd really looked up to, who'd been like a massive guardian for me in my like younger years in the industry, to be like, hope I didn't fuck this up too much. Here you go. And see him, and like obviously he was coming at a much higher level, and to do things with that brewery I could never have done at that time, but to be like, yeah, here you go, was a really nice feeling and something really good. And he was like super good to me during that transition period. And yeah, from there I went to Magic Rock when we were in the mill. That was really interesting to go and work for a brewery that I was a massive fan of, and it wasn't a cult, but I really like it could have been. I was part of the movement. I was in 100%. I wanted to be here. I think when I started, there was Rich and Stu, Scott, Nige were there, so I must have been the 5th person in. It was massively important to what I ended up doing and my personality as a brewer. To come and work for these people who were making these beers that every time I tried them I was just blown away, was phenomenal. Work was hard, but really fun, and like every single one of them gave a shit about every single thing. It was really good.
So you were at Magic Rock, um, but you left and you rejoined Marble. When did that happen?
My last day at Magic Rock was December 16th, 2016. Only really went to Marble because my younger brother, who we'd talked for quite a while, like, we're doing really well here, but I think we should go and set a brewery up. And then his dad gave him some money and told him to go and set up his own brewery. So he told me that, and I was like, okay, fuck this shit. If my younger brother is setting up his own place before I do, I'm definitely gonna need to go and do something. And then had always said, I don't really want to work for my family until I can bring something to the table. Nepotism's pretty horrible, and I don't want to be just seen as like, oh, you're only here because your mum owns it, or like, I need to go and learn enough to, when I come and join, I'm bringing something to the table that this company doesn't have. If Dan hadn't left, I probably could have been at Man Rock for like a good decade or two. And him leaving was kind of like, do you want to do this? This brewery's growing. You like small things. You like growing things. You've learned a lot about how breweries grow and what to do on a production side. And the opportunity came up at Marble, and I was quite excited. The Brewhouse and production facility at that time was long due a massive overhaul. came on, started just adding little bits of plumbing in, adding little bits, started like asking some questions about why don't we do things this way, why are we doing it this way. I think probably really pissed JK and Jan off a lot, because it might have come across as me sort of saying, well, big breweries do it like this, or you're doing it wrong, when really it was like hey, come on, we're trying to play, we're trying to compete, we need to start doing things in a bit of a better way. I really cannot stress how much I fucking hated our old production site. The kit was a bag of shit, but also it was in a old railway arch. There's mold everywhere. The constant problems outside the brewery. The brewery and the warehouse were set up so into the brewery was one railway arch, and you were like sloping downhill to come in, and then the warehouse and storage was behind it, but there was no through access. So you had to produce, come out the front, go back down, go through another arch into a yard and come back in. Nothing was done with thought or mind or flow. There was pieces of pipework in the brewery where I could see one person made something some way, the next person had come in, and instead of taking that out and putting something else in to replace it, had just gone over it or routed around it. It gave me like weird OCD, spectrum-y twitches, like really made me uncomfortable. So coming in and to that brewery and not having to think necessarily about brewing or production or management, but just like, okay, how do we get out of this? Let's start looking at sites. Let's start having meetings about how we run. Let's start building a new brewery. And then a massive consortium bought all the land, including the brewery we were in, which really kicked us up another gear.
Let me stop you there just for a second, just before we get too far forward to that. At this point, the brewery has gone from in the back of the Marble Arch to a railway arch down the hill. Was that Williamson Street?
Yeah, Williamson Street.
And so they were there for almost 10 years?
Yeah, so they moved. Well, we started production in the new site a week before Arthur's birthday, so that would have been the end of May 2019. We went into the new site, which, a 2-year project and a 9-month project, and they both finish on the same week. It's pretty fun.
You come back to Marble, you're working under JK, under James Kemp. So what did you come back doing? What was your job when you came back?
JK's super good and creative. They kind of brought me in to take a lot of the back end, a lot of the organization away from him, so he could just be creative. And I think I took that to come and build us a new brewery. So yeah, that's kind of what I did.
So where is the new place?
We spent a lot of time looking for it, and it's really weird because we expanded massively in terms of usable space, but it's the smallest brewery expansion ever in terms of like fermentation capacity and brew length. I actually looked this up because I thought you would ask me about it. So we expanded by 1.67 US brewers barrels, which is probably pretty small considering that is like a full new brew house, full site, brand new fermenters. We brought 2 bright beer tanks that were bought just as I came into the company.
What Americans won't realize is that the reason you didn't, go up 1,000 barrels, because that would make sense in the United States. In England, if you grow too much, you wind up losing this duty relief, this tax relief.
Yeah, so I'm going to call it duty, DUTY. It basically is you have to pay tax on alcohol somewhere. So there is a tax on producing alcohol. Generally, you as a producer will sell it at a price and then include the tax and then give the government the tax. And on top of that, you have your VAT and other fun taxes. You can make up to 5,000 hectolitres a year and pay 50% of this tax. That's an okay size for a small brewery with a packaging line. And if you're just doing a brewery, that's 3 production staff, someone in sales, someone on marketing. We're very comfortable with that size.
It's almost better to either be ridiculously small or ridiculously large.
It just means when you reach the natural point of 5,000, you go from 5 to 10, not 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. We're in a really weird position because we wouldn't exist as a brewery without this tax relief, but we also can't grow without a progressive step. once you produce more than 5,000 hectolitres a year, you kind of start need to looking for big national customers for the UK anyway. We as a company aren't really ready to sell to a big national supermarket. We like what we have. We have tight knit. It's really nice. We don't see the point in growth for the sake of growth. We like growing because we're all growing as people, as a company. We're all getting better at what we do. Let's grow for that reason. Let's not grow because we have to sell more beer and that means we have to make more beer. I've done that for other people. I don't really want to make the guys who work for me do that.
Where the new brewery is, what type of setup is, or what type of neighborhood, I guess, is that? What type of setup is the development?
It's kind of what it's like. It's exactly what I wanted to. The brewery is in a box room. It's not a, it sounds very boring and monochrome stuff, but the brewery is in a warehouse. It's a straight rectangle. We got to put our own floors and drains in, and that's really exciting if you're a brewer. Like, super exciting to have your drain layout is exactly how you planned it, and your slopes are exactly how you planned them. It's on an industrial estate, so we don't have to worry about wagons. We're just behind what's called Media City, where we are. So we had a ton of disposable income footfall coming past us. We weren't like out in the sticks. It's just a really nice place for where we are and where we want to grow.
And you opened a tap room to go with the brewery there, right?
Yeah, the Marble Arch is always going to be seen as a flagship from the brewery. And there's kind of a thing in the UK now that you can own a bar like 15 miles away from your brewery, but that's your tap room. And for me, that was always like, no, a tap room's like literally, it's a room with taps from the tanks in it. That's what it should be. And I got a lot of inspiration from being in the States. One of the main places that really had a lot of draw for me was Civil Society in Jupiter's tap room. Bund wall, you can see everything that's going on behind it. You can practically throw popcorn at the tanks from the side of the bar. I'd worked in breweries where the brewery was a showpiece and stuff before, but it was behind a window or a piece of glass or something. And it's kind of just like, I don't want to spend all of my like free time on a Thursday and a Friday cleaning glass for frequency. Let's put the brewery open. Let's put the tap room right in the middle of the floor. Come and sit in here. Come and see like the literal tap from the tank and stuff. So we were really excited about that. Just pre-COVID and stuff.
Since you brought it up, the COVID-19 pandemic has, I'm going to assume, forced the closing of both the pub and the tap room.
Yeah, we closed everywhere, and I don't know. We kind of thought about it, and we probably could have done takeout food from the pub, for example. But like, is it worth it? Like, what we could gain from it? Yeah, we probably could have had some income, but we would have risked chefs. We would have risked delivery staff. We really want to put people in danger when we can just hold tight. Honestly, when COVID kicked off for the brewery, I was like, okay, I'll get 2, maybe 3 weeks, and we'll sell all our stock, and then we'll probably shut up shop. In that time, I've ordered new seals for all the pumps in the brewery, or parts you don't really change on the Brewhouse, so like new PRVs for all the tanks. Like, I had like a maintenance schedule that was like a full day of work every day for 3 weeks. It was going to be amazing. Pretty much our new brewery was just about to get overhauled after a year, which never happens for anyone. Like, it was going to be sick. And then, yeah, all our packaged beer sold in a week, which was amazing and completely unexpected. I was really, really pessimistic about what our online sales would do because our online shop historically we just ran it to basically we have our beers are like some people really like them, and just because you live in London doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to drink our beer. So we had like an online shop just so people who tried our beers could get them, and that upscale by like 800% or something in the first week. And then it was very much like, oh, better put those pumps back together. And then we very solidly grown like week on week. I don't know if it exceeded what we thought it would do because I'm really pessimistic. I was very much like, pump the brake, guys. Let's put all our protections in. Let's really bunker down, and we can look after everyone and make sure no one has to go without or be made redundant. And then it did way better. And then the next week did a little bit better, and the next week did a little bit better. And then we were doing well enough on a plateau to bring like a production member of staff back, and then shit, actually our online orders where production staff are processing online orders on a computer, they shouldn't be doing that. We should bring an admin member back so that production can worry about packaging, and things have been for the brewery and for me like better than we expected, but I think that's because we had really low expectations. And I mean, personally, it's really difficult when like we have a company of 35 to 40 people. I don't want those people to worry about where their money's coming from or how it's coming or what's happening to it. I'm glad I've been really conservative in a way on, what we've said and what we've been able to do. Like, I don't want those people to ever struggle or worry if what's going to happen next. So I hope we've been very forward with them and stuff. Luckily, no redundancy. Everyone's okay. The brewery's very slowly taking over. Obviously, the UK furlough scheme, I think, might be different from the US, but if we didn't have that, things would be really different.
In the US, there basically is no redundancy scheme. If you get laid off, you're laid off.
Here at the moment, for us, the government will pay 80% of any member of staff's wage, but they have to stay at home. Of the 40 people we just talked about, probably 30 of them would have been laid off. But due to the furlough scheme where it's just like, just stay at home, be safe, we've been really lucky to be able to do that.
That's awesome. So, has there been any word when you'll be able to open either the pub or the tap room?
The back room, like where the kitchen and stuff it's not looking great. You definitely can't social distance in there, given it's an open kitchen. But renovation work has just started. Starts closing down. I think we're looking 22nd July, I think, for opening stuff up here in terms of like gardens and whatever, and that might be like beer garden space outside the brewery, which has the biggest yard where we can do that. At the moment, we're doing enough that everyone's okay, no one's going hungry or anything, but we can always do better. So it's massive risk versus reward. Like, it's so hard to think about, like, if I bring this money in, I can bring someone else into work, help them out financially, but what is the risk of someone getting sick? Obviously, I trust all our staff when we give them procedure or rule or explain to them, gloves have got to be worn, face mask, wash your hands, always wash your hands, go and wash your hands again. But do I trust a guy who's come off the street, who's just bought a beer and gone to the bathroom? At the moment, I'm very pushback, like just keep production safe, keep the online sales. We can bring public in when we need to bring them in.
Okay, I mean, I totally understandable. Both you and your significant other are both in the beer industry, and now you got a little one. How have things been for you?
Like, we're a great team, so that's how we've done it. I think at the beginning it was really hard for us. We had a pretty set structure, and then her being home more and me being home less, that was really hard. We had long chats, long walks, as you do as a young couple with a child. And then we were like, okay, try this. And is this a regime where, okay, your Tuesday morning sounds like a really hardcore meeting. So I'm going to sleep next to him Monday night. Look, can you help me out this Thursday? I think I'm going to work late. And we just did that. And then as we got into it, it just kind of flowed. And then some things worked, some things didn't. And we just talked and talked and talked. Having a child that grows that fast, working in an industry that changes so quickly, where our biggest strength is we're not set. We're super quick. Okay, today this worked. Tomorrow doesn't matter if it worked yesterday. We've learned. Let's apply it, but be plasticine. Okay, let's go to the next shape. Let's try this. You just make it work, right?
Do you have any advice for a kid who's kind of growing up in the industry you grew up in?
Just go and be a fucking accountant or something. No. Like, to be honest, because like my father's an architect, right? And I used to ask him about this, and he would always be like, "Don't do my job. Like, just don't be an architect. It's shit." And it gave him a really good life. So I don't know. Like, if my kid wants to get into brewing, he'll be good. Like, if he doesn't, I'm not. I don't care. Like, just try and do the best you can do. You know, this isn't a question I've really thought about.
You got some time, dude. He's won.
But also, like, given how fucking riotous I was as a child, like, I don't want him doing the shit I was doing at 10, 11, 12. Like, look, as long as he's a decent person, I don't I don't really care. As long as he's like, as long as he's good to people around him and he's happy, like his job's gonna be okay.
Is there anything that you'd like to add about Marble?
No, we're not really very good at selling ourselves, are we? Just no. Like, if you're in the UK, if you want to see what's going on, please come and see us. We're just a small little brewery doing small little brewery stuff.
Joe, thanks for the time. I know it's officially late in England right now. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having us on.
Night. Sleep well. I'll talk to you soon. Since I spoke with Joe, the brewery tap has opened up on a limited basis, and the Marble Arch is slated to reopen on August 8th. If you'd like to learn more about Marble, the Marble Arch, or pick up some of their beer, please visit their website. The link is in the video's description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.